Hello everyone, today I'm going to be making one of my most popular bow shapes, and that is the Ringmaster Circus hair bow. I've got my fabrics here. I've got this red and white stripy glitter, and this is to represent the Circus big top tent. I've also got a gold glitter, a red glitter and a black glitter fabric. The templates I'm going to be using are these ones here. They've been used quite a lot, as you can see, all the pen marks. This is my favourite bow shape, and this is the Beauty Bow, and this is by Glitter Glitter on the Wall. I will link these in the description below, along with anything else that I use in this video today. That will all be linked in the description below. I'm going to be using the medium-sized tails, which make a 3.5-inch bow, the 3.5-inch tails, the smaller loops to layer on the top. The 2.5-inch tails, I'm not actually using these, I actually use them to make this part though. So this part is to layer on top of my bigger tails. So I draw around one end, extended the middle, drew around the other end, and basically this lays perfectly on top of my 3.5-inch tails. I did this on paper to begin with, and then I drew around it onto a nice sturdy piece of card. That way I've got this to keep in with my bow templates and use again and again. I will now show you how I made my own top hat template. So starting off with a piece of just scrap paper, I've just got a piece of scrap print and paper here. So I'm going to freehandly draw half of my top hat. I don't know how good you are at drawing, but this is quite simple. You don't have to be a great drawer. I want my template to be about 3.5 centimetres. So I'm using my board, because my board here has got squares on it. Each of these are a centimetre. So 3.5 centimetres, I want my hat to start up here and finish down here. So using these lines as a guide, I'm going to free-handedly draw half of a top hat. Once you're happy with your rough sketch of your half of a top hat, you then need to take your paper and fold it in half along that drawing. So long ways along that hat, and then we are going to cut round both halves at once. This will make sure that it is symmetrical by folding it in half. So I'm going to carefully cut around my hat, round off this corner, taper it down slightly at an angle, because if you think of a top hat, they're slightly sort of tapered. So I'm going to cut that bit slightly angled, and then just cutting around the last bit along the bottom of the hat. And then when we open this up, we can just check to see what it looks like. So that's a nice shape, but I think that's a little bit wide. So what you can do is then go back in and just trim a little bit more off. So I'm folding it in half again, and I'm just going to straighten up that little corner there, and then just take a little bit off the side to make it more narrow. Not too much, because remember you're cutting both sides, so just a little bit will be cutting off double the width. So I'm just going to round off this corner and just take a little bit off that top part as well, just to make it a nice shape. And then check it again. And yeah, that's much better this time. So this is the kind of shape you're looking to aim for. And then what you'll do now is transfer this onto a piece of card like this. So you've got the template to use again and again. I've also drawn on here the little strap across the bottom. I cut this out in the gold glitter. So I've just drawn that on there to remind myself to cut that piece out. Now we are ready to make the main part of our bow. So grabbing our fabrics, I'm going to start off with the stripy fabric, and if you think of a circus tent, the stripes tend to go downwards, so I'm laying my fabric down so that my stripes are going to be going vertical rather than horizontal. So taking my loops template, these ones make the 3.5-inch bow, the stripes are going downwards. I'm going to draw around this with just a biro pen. And then what I do is I cut inside the pen line, and that way you don't have any pen marks on the underside. Next, taking the loops that make the 2.5 inch bow, we're going to draw around that on the back of our red fabric and then cut it out. And now for the tails, we're going to be using the 3.5 inch tails and the top layer, which I made using the 2.5 inch template. We're going to draw around these two now on a black fabric for the 3.5 inch tails. Next, we're going to use the template that I made to layer up on top of our tails, and we're going to use the fine gold glitter fabric for this one. You can use chunky glitter, but fine glitter is fine for layering up the tails. So that's the main pieces of the bow ready. We also will need a felt I forgot to mention earlier. This is just a cheap craft felt. I use this to line the back of the top hat. I like to line the top hat, that just gives it an extra little bit of thickness and helps it to stand up. Now I'm going to assemble the main part of the bow using hot glue. I've cut a 5cm strip from my gold glitter to wrap around the centre. I've also got a 45mm clip and a 1cm wide ribbon in red to match my bow, and I'm going to wrap my clip. So I start off on the underside, tuck it in the pinch part and wrap the rest around the top of the bow. This is optional, you don't have to do that, but I like to just to give my bow a nice finish. I'm just going to trim off some excess ribbon because I've cut this a little bit too long. Always heat seal the raw edges of your ribbon. And then I'm just going to finish off by gluing this under the clip by opening it up. And there you have a nice lined clip for your bow. So I'm going to now attach this to the underside of my hair bow. And then taking my gold strip, we're going to wrap this around the centre. So place some glue on one end, opening up the clip, and then just start wrapping it around the middle of the bow, and then finishing off on the underside. I'm just going to trim off any excess length, open up the clip to stick that last end down. And that is the main bow finished. It looks lovely with that extra layer on the tails. Now we're ready to make our top hat. Here's our top hat template that we made. I'm going to use a black glitter for my top hat. So I'm going to draw around that on the black glitter fabric. Again, just using a biro pen because you won't see the back of it anyway, so we're going to line it in felt. We also need to cut out the little band for the top hat, this little piece here. I use this black line as a guide, using a gold scrap piece of fabric. I'm going to lay my top hat onto the fabric, and then using this line as a guide, I'm going to draw as high as this black line goes, so it's about 0.5 centimetre. So a little line this side and a little line this side, and then using the bottom of my hat as a ruler, if you like, because it's slightly curved, I'm going to use that to join the top lines and the bottom two lines. I can just see those lines poking out from the bottom, and that way it will fit the curve of the bottom of the hat, because the hat has got a slight curve at the bottom. So that is how I draw around my strip. So here they are cut out. Now I will show you the measurements of my hat, so when you draw yours you can get a rough idea of the size of mine to fit your bow. So across the top of the bow, so the widest part, because it tapers, so the top part which tapers out is slightly over, about 22 millimeters wide, and then the height is around 3.5 centimeters high, and across the bottom of the widest part it is just under 3.5 centimeters. Now we need some glue to stick on our little strip and back it with felt. I'm using 𝘢𝘳𝘢𝘄 all-purpose adhesive. I've got my craft felt here, and I'm going to stick my hat onto my felt first of all. So just find a little corner, so I'm not using too much of my felt. I'm going to place my glue around the back of my hat, not too thick, because when you push it down it might seep out the edges, so not too close to the edge and not too thick, just a nice thin layer of the glue, and then pop that onto the felt and just push down to spread the glue on the back there. And then we are going to use the same glue again, the 𝘢𝘳𝘢 all-purpose adhesive. Any all-purpose adhesive will do. I will link some in the description below. And we're going to use this again to stick on our little gold strip. But first of all, I'm going to just cut around my top hat. I'm going to use the heat from my lighter just to heat seal around the edge of my hat to take away any fluffy bits. So just gently going around all the edges, and that will just get rid of any frays. Now I'm going to glue on my little gold band onto my hat. So I'm applying a thin layer of 𝘢𝘳𝘢 adhesive right across that strip, and then I'm just going to place it on the top hat at the bottom where the hat meets the wider rim part, so right at the bottom there. And as you can see, that just really finishes off the top hat look. Now to apply our finishing touch. You could add this hat to the centre, to the tail, to the top of the bow, but I like mine just on the bottom layer corner at a slight angle like that. I just think that looks really nice standing up from the bow, which is why I add the felt, so it's got that extra sturdiness to stand up. So just have a little look at how you want that to sit, and then think about where you're going to apply your glue. So I want my glue in a sort of triangle shape there in the middle, not too close to the edge because it overhangs the loop slightly. So about like that. And then I'm going to lay that on the top of my loop. And then I'm going to put my finger in the loop because I don't want to squash my loop flat. And I'm just going to push that hat down just to make sure that's nicely stuck down and the glue is set. And there you have your finished Ringmaster Circus hair bow. So in the description below, I've got all the products used today linked down below. I've also got my socials linked in the description below, so make sure you check those out. If you enjoyed this tutorial today, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you press the bell button, that will turn on notifications. Thank you for watching, everyone. Bye.